Hello, welcome. Welcome to Today in History. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama. It's the 3rd of September. Let us get cracking. So, on this day, what happened? 3rd of September, the year is 1609. And the guy pictured here is called Henry Hudson. He was an English navigator. On this day, in a quest for a passage to India on behalf of the Dutch East India Company, he sailed into the harbour of present-day New York City and up the river that now bears his name. So, obviously the Hudson River. And I think I first heard about the Hudson River when the pilot who crash landed on the Hudson River several years ago, and who could have easily crashed his plane had he not landed on the Hudson River. Obviously became a hero. So this is a man who the river was named after. I wonder what the American Indians called it at the time. They must have had a name for it, but obviously that we may never find out. But that's English navigator who the Hudson River is named after. He was looking for a passage to India and sailed into the Hudson River. That happened on this day in 1609. 49 years later, Oliver Cromwell, another Englishman, this time a general, pictured here. He was a statesman as well. He led the Parliament of England's armies against King Charles I during the English Civil War and ruled the British Isles as Lord Protector from 1653 until his death in 1658. So he died on this day in 1658. He acted simultaneously as head of state and head of government of the new Republican Commonwealth. Cromwell was born into the middle gentry to a family descended from the sister of Henry VIII's minister, Thomas Cromwell. So this is Oliver Cromwell, pictured here, who died on this day in 1658. In 1838, I have featured this guy before. His name is Frederick Douglass. He escapes from slavery disguised as a sailor. Frederick Douglass, born Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey, born circa February 1818. He died on the 20th of February 1895. He was an American social reformer. He was an abolitionist, an orator, a writer, and a statesman. After escaping slavery in Maryland, he became a national leader of the abolitionist movement in Massachusetts and New York, gaining note for his oratory and incisive anti-slavery writings. Accordingly, he was described by abolitionists in his time as a living counterexample to slaveholders' arguments that slaves lacked the intellectual capacity to function as independent American citizens. Likewise, Northerners at the time found it hard to believe that such a great orator had once been a slave. Talk of making assumptions of people. It's a good thing that he was around to, what's the word now? I struggle to find the right word. To challenge people's assumptions of what someone should and shouldn't be. So just because he was a slave doesn't mean he wasn't intelligent, doesn't mean that he would automatically lose the gift of oratory, you know. So that's Frederick Douglass, who I've talked about in the previous video, so go check it out. I'm gonna put a link right here, right now, so you find out more about this great guy, Frederick Douglass, who refused to be put down, refused to be repressed, refused to be oppressed. Right, we go on to the next newsworthy item that occurred on this day. So his name, as you can see, is Louis Sullivan, probably pronounced Louis since he's American, very likely. He would have pronounced his name Louis, an anglicized version of Louis. Born on this day in 1856, as you can see here, he is regarded as a father of skyscrapers. He was an architect, American architect, father of modernism, considered by many as a creator of the modern skyscraper, just like I mentioned earlier. Was an influential architect and critic of the Chicago School. Was a mentor to Frank Lloyd Wright, interesting, and an inspiration to the Chicago group of architects who have come to be known as the Prairie School. So I'm going to scroll down a bit so you can see a bit more about Louis Sullivan, some of his buildings on this collage. So go check him out. Jewelers Building in Chicago, Illinois, 1881 to 1882. Some of his designs, intricate designs on his buildings. The Prudential as well, in Buffalo, New York. Yeah, he was quite a gifted architect. So Louis Sullivan was born on this day in 1856. American architect, father of modernism, father of skyscrapers. Let's move on to the year 1875. So what happened on this day in 1875? This guy was born. His name is Ferdinand Porsche, with the car that he gave his name to. So born on this day in 1875, he died on the 30th of January 1951. He was an Austrian-German automotive engineer and founder of the Porsche car company. He is best known for creating the first gasoline-electric hybrid vehicle, the Lohner Porsche, the Volkswagen Beetle, the Mercedes-Benz SSK, several other important developments, and Porsche automobiles. So Ferdinand Porsche pictured here with the car that bears his name. Let's move on to the year 1947. On this day, this man, his name is Mario Draghi. He is an Italian economist who served as president of the European Central Bank between 2011 and 2019. Before that, he served as the chairman of the Financial Stability Board from 2009 to 2011. And governor of the Bank of Italy from 2005 to 2011. So, Mario Draghi for you, born on this day in 1947. Also born on this day in 1963, Malcolm Gladwell. Those of you who have not heard about him, go check him out. He's a brilliant writer. And I'll read a bit about Malcolm Gladwell. He's a Canadian journalist and writer. Malcolm Timothy Gladwell is also English-born. He's an author, he's a public speaker. He has been a staff writer for The New Yorker since 1996. He has published 6 books: The Tipping Point, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference. Fascinating book. I have read it. Go check it out, guys. Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking, 2005. Outliers, I've read that as well. The Story of Success, 2008. Brilliant book. What the Dog Saw and Other Adventures, 2009. A collection of his journalism, David and Goliath, Underdogs, Misfits, and the Art of Battling Giants in 2013, and Talking to Strangers, What We Should Know About the People We Don't Know, 2019. That's quite new. His first 5 books were on the New York Times bestseller list. His 6th book, Talking to Strangers, was released in September 2019. He is also the host of the podcast Revisionist History and co-founder of the podcast company Pushkin Industries. So that is Malcolm Gladwell, who was born on this day in 1963. English-born Canadian journalist. Now I'm going to talk a bit about tipping point, what I learned from tipping point. A good example which he gave, which I still remember, was the broken glass theory, which I guess wasn't originally his. It was something that he expanded upon. Now, he said that in the 90s, I believe it was the early or mid-90s in New York City. Now, the mayor at the time had this policy of tidying up rundown areas in New York. So these were rundown areas where crime was rife. So decided to fix the broken windows of buildings that had been abandoned, obviously vandalized. Cars that have been parked on the streets for several months, got rid of them, spruced up the area. And what did he discover? The crime rate in that area, that part of New York, dropped drastically. Some would argue that the crime moved elsewhere, but the point is, what he did worked. So the tipping point for New York at that point, perhaps there were, say, 1,000 crimes committed in that area every month. That was a point where crime would tip and snowball, if you like. But he decided to do something about it. And once he brought the crime level to a certain level, say 500 every month, the crime rate tipped down, So that's one example of what he talked about in the tipping point. The snowball effect, I know he didn't mention, I don't think he talked about the snowball effect itself in this book, but that's another example I could give to illustrate the tipping point. Snowballs roll down slowly, and as they gather momentum, they take on more snow, and as the snowball increases, the momentum increases as well. So the snowball gets to a point where it tips, if you like, and at that point you can't really stop it. The flow or the roll of that snowball becomes faster and faster until it gets to a point where obviously once the incline changes, it's no longer inclined at an acute angle, it levels up, the snowball stops rolling down the hill. So I hope that's those examples are good. It's a long time that it's been a while since I read the book, so a lot of things have escaped my memory. But go check out the book, The Tipping Point. It's brilliant. He's a brilliant writer. He knows how to explain stuff that most of us take for granted. Go check his book out. Also, whatever you do in life, this is another example. For instance, let's use YouTube as an example. What I have discovered from YouTubers is that, those who put out videos on a regular basis, they do not see results, in most cases for 5 to 6 months. That's the average, which I've found out because I've watched several YouTube videos. And then on the 5th or 6th month, something happens. That's the tipping point. So you're getting 5-10 views every day on your videos, 5-10 views. Each time you upload a video, 5-10 views. There's a very, very slow rate of increase. Very, very slow rate of increase. Think about the snowball effect that I talked about a few minutes ago. So at some point, it tips. Okay, so suddenly you're getting 20, 30 views every day, 20, 30, sometimes 100 views. So what changed? That's what's called the tipping point. So that's sudden change in momentum, and things just start moving at. It's called virality, isn't it? When you say your videos have gone viral, that's exactly what the tipping point is all about. Okay, so whatever you're doing in life, you think that you're not seeing results, just keep on keeping on, and obviously, as you keep on keeping on, you're plodding along. Seek for ways to improve on the quality of what you're sending out. In case of videos, for instance, look for ways to improve on those videos. That would very likely shorten the time span between now that your videos are not viral and when your videos become viral. And usually it takes just one video goes viral and things just change suddenly on your channel. But that's the experience of most YouTubers anyway. So okay, let's go on to the next item for today. 1971, on this day, Qatar. Yes, it's pronounced Qatar and not Qatar. Some people pronounce it Qatar, but it's not Qatar, it's Qatar. As you can see, it's located in the Middle East. Tiny country, beautiful country, developed country. Officially became independent from the United Kingdom on this day in 1971. And I shall show you pictures to prove how beautiful and clean the city is. This is obviously an architect's drawing, but it's not far off from real life. This is a real picture. Beautiful city. This is the capital of Qatar, Doha. Okay, on this day in 1976, the Viking 2 landed on Mars. After nearly 1 year, this journey took nearly a year. NASA's robotic spacecraft, pictured here, landed on Mars on this day in 1976 and began relaying information about the planet's atmosphere and soil, as well as color photographs of the rocky red Martian surface. 1991 on this day. This is quite an interesting one and a long read, so bear with me, but it's quite interesting, trust me, quite interesting. His name is Frank Capra. He's an American director, and on this day in 1991 he died. But he's best known for a series of beloved films that included Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which was released in 1939, and It's a Wonderful Life, released in 1946 as a film of what? Beautiful film. He died in California. Now, his full name was Frank Russell Capra, born Francesco Rosario Capra on the 18th of May, 1897. He was an Italian-American film director, producer, and writer who became, I lost my train of thought, the creative force behind some of the major award-winning films of the 1930s and 1940s. Capra was born Francesco Rosario Capra in Bisacquino, a village near Palermo, Sicily, Italy. He was the youngest of 7 children of Salvatore Capra, a fruit grower, and the former Rosario Serra Nicolosi. Capra's family was Roman Catholic. The name Capra, now this is where it gets interesting, which I found very, very, very interesting. Now it says the name Capra notes Capra's biographer Joseph McBride represents his family's closeness to the land and means goat. He notes that the English word capricious derives from it, evoking the animal's skittish temperament, adding that the name neatly expresses 2 aspects of Frank Capra's personality: emotionalism and obstinacy. So, on that interesting, fascinating, capricious note, we end today in history. And that with Frank Capra and his lovely film, It's a Wonderful Life. That's a film I used to watch every Christmas with my better half. Yeah, so precious memories of a bygone era. On that note, guys, we end today's Today in History for the 3rd of September. Go check out It's a Wonderful Life. It's a great film. And also, obviously, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I'm going to check that out because I haven't seen that before. So guys, give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Consider subscribing so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Share with friends and family. It helps with the algorithm, and also it helps me gain more views, more viewership. Encourages me to make more videos as well. Encourages me to improve the quality of my videos as well. And all that jazz. Thanks again, guys, for watching. My name again is Tony Afiesimama. I shall see you tomorrow, the 4th of September, for another edition of Today in History. So when you do subscribe, click the notification bell so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.